Hey Adrian, just going to quickly look through your videos here. You probably should see that I've sent you a new block, which has got some nice singles for you to play around with. Particularly, we'll see what happens with sumo, it should be quite fun. But let's get into these. So I just wanted to also just uh, say that I will take a look at some of these points, particularly the deadlift one. Yeah, we'll have a look. That's when it comes to hook grip. I think give it a try again. The If I recall correctly, um, you used to have a very like jerky slack pull, so it used to happen very very fast. So now that you're a little bit more methodical, it might be that the hook feels a bit better, and it does just take some time to kind of get the right feel through your upper back. Like you need to make sure that the best hook is where all the slack is taken out of the system prior to the bar leaving the ground, so there's less of a shock to the thumbs. So yeah, let's see where we are this week. All right. Yeah, squat's looking really good. Is fantastic there as well. The only thing to be, ooh, it's very slightly the case. Just this, I think I've mentioned this before, perhaps, but we want hips to be sort of going down and back. So just make sure that at the bottom position of the squat, uh, at that point your hips are at the furthest back in the entire movement, if that makes sense. So sometimes there could be a bit of a tendency to do like this, or something like that, and then come back almost more forwards at the bottom position. So just be aware of that a little bit, but generally speaking, these look really really good. Yeah, definitely a little bit of like forward movement of the hips as you reach depth. So yeah, be aware of that. Great tempo control. Yeah, really nice press. Yeah, lovely. Bench is absolutely popping. All right. Okay. So, okay, let me see what happens here. I think, yeah, I think probably what you should do is just start where your hips are when the bar leaves the ground. I think possibly you're trying to get yourself too upright, and then you just end up naturally in the position where you're strongest. If that makes sense. Um, I think there's even if you could force the position and force the foot pressure and leg drive, etc., such that you can maintain that angle, I don't think it's going to be the most efficient for you. I think this pan, honestly, like this is, I know what you mean about the angle, but this is what I was seeing before anyway. So this is actually honestly pretty decent. It's a good sort of like development and progression of your torso control. So I think you're actually doing a really good job. So don't worry about how bad this looks. Um, this is possibly just a little bit of a dose of reality, um, but it's sort of as bad as I was seeing, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think you're just starting a little bit too low with your hips. I understand what you're saying, and like you feel quite strong in that position, or you feel like you'd be able to break the floor. But that's probably just because it removes some of the stress from your back, because obviously you've by having your torso more like this, you've shortened the lever arm horizontally, right? So there's less stress on your back. Um, but I think that's fine. I think you just have to get used to it. So I'm looking again here to see where your hips end up. We've got a nice vertical line here to help us out. Yeah, so you can see how you're dipping forward slightly. This is a really useful angle. Backwards, that's a bit better. But yeah, you can see on some of these you're kind of hinging around your knees a bit, right? At the very bottom, which is biomechanically not horrendous, but in terms of powerlifting, um, and sort of getting to this point, I think basically what's happening here is that as you kind of are reaching for depth, you're pushing your knees forwards, perhaps, and it's kind of working for you because you're hitting depth, but and this is really great, but I think you'd be in a bit of a stronger position with your knees kind of like there, that far forward, and your hips a bit more like this. So, just move everything backwards in space. Like, so it wouldn't be as simple as that, obviously. So, obviously, you're going to be mechanically, you'll have your hips kind of more like this, and your knees, your knees would be further back, literally. And so, you'd have a slightly more vertical shin, like here, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's basically just to address this pattern where you're, doing this thing with your hips, which just makes balance trickier, basically. So as much as possible, we want to see this line, right? So just painting that a bit more accurately for you. So, and you can see that it's not quite there. Obviously, this is not a perfect line for your starting position either. But yeah, hope you can see what I mean there. So that probably what you want to have if we bring you back. Oops. Get rid of this. So your hips do finish about here. So we want to have something that looks a little bit more like this. Something, right, with a little bit of an error bar. And so what you're doing right now is moving your hips back quite early. Yeah. Hips come back early and then you just drop them down. Whereas what we want to have more happen is, we have this diagonal down and back, and then the bar just gets to drop vertically down. The bar is moving vertically down, so that is great. But yeah, sort of hip mechanics could be a little bit better. All right, anyway, enough rambling. I hope that makes sense. Hope you're having a happy new year and everything. And look forward to seeing what happens in this next training vlog.